Hello, family, friends, followers, visitors, guests for the moment. I'm glad that you've taken a piece of your day to share with me in my home environment. It says a world. Ronald Reagan had many things going for him. I want to talk about public service for a short time. I'll try to make it quick. In the olden days, shortly after the founding fathers, the concept of public service was somebody who worked for the public, was somebody who gave up a lot. They didn't get paid as much money. There's a whole bunch of things that they didn't get. They worked all the time. Oftentimes didn't get vacations, but they had a reasonably secure job, sometimes a guaranteed job in times of turmoil. And over time, there was a clamoring to bring public service into competition with the mainstream employment opportunities. Public service, like everybody else, wanted more money. That started happening in the late 50s, early 60s, and progressed somewhat aggressively over time. So that today, public servants, those who work for the public, you and me and everybody else, but they have governmental jobs, has come to mean that you get all your federal holidays off, all your state holidays off, guaranteed insurance, guaranteed vacation, time off for when your third cousin has a baby, or however that relationship might work. There's a whole bunch of things that public servants get now, and they have guaranteed to them that you and I, if we're in regular employment, we simply don't get. And on top of that, they get unions now to advocate for them. And in some instances, they can even strike, which in the early days they could not. So we look to the public servants, people like John McCain and others who have spent their life in the public servant and service category, and what have they got out of it? So let's talk just briefly about what a new legislator gets, man or woman. They get into office, let's say they go into office and have a net worth of $75,000 or $100,000 or $200,000, it doesn't really matter, somewhere in that area. How is it possible 3 years later that they're multi-millionaires? And you see that happen often. We call it a swamp. Generally, if one's a Democrat, they are a swamp person, period. They're lowlifes, and they don't really care about you. We'll talk about that in a minute. If they're Republicans, the chances are high that they too are a swamp person, and that they've made millions of dollars compromising their belief system and your rights. Into this whole mix under public servants, we have the fourth estate of government, the administrative agencies, because Congress refuses to do its job directly, and because your state legislature refuses to do its job directly. Oh, it's too much work, we can't do it. They create laws, and they don't provide the tools to put those laws in place. Instead, they hire a whole army of other people, the fourth estate. I'm thinking back now to the early 90s, and I had occasion to work to lobby for change in how administrative law was made in Oregon. And that year, that biennium, those 2 years, the Oregon legislature had about 3,000 laws proposed, and they passed 300. In 1 year of that 2-year biennium, Oregon administrative agencies created and or changed 30,000 rules without, over 30,000, without oversight by the Oregon legislature. And I could go into detail in this, but because I researched it, I know the case law, and I could chew up a bunch of time. And maybe someday I'll do that. But for today, it's enough to know that the fourth estate of government violates the fundamental principles of separation of powers. It has its own hearings departments, it has its own judiciary, and it has its own executive enforcement built into it. And it's all under the executive branch of whether it's the federal government or the state government. About the only thing about that I really enjoyed was practicing in that arena. I never had a client who, in dealing with administrative agencies, the administrative agency was successful. My client won in every instance. I dealt at the federal and the state level. So I despise the administrative agency process, the fourth estate of government. I believe it's unconstitutional, and regardless of what the Supreme Court says, and you have to remember that they are in bed with the other two branches of government. Regardless of what they say about the validity of administrative agencies, they are not. They are unconstitutional. You can read the Constitution for yourself. And when you read the separation of powers clause and you look at administrative agencies, but I go on a rant and I get away from public service and servants. If they were public servants, we would not have the border crisis we have going on right now. It can't be much simpler than that. They are not public servants. They serve their own interests, and they serve the interests of government, not you and not me. So with that, I leave you with the idea and the concept that this weekend can still be a great weekend. I'm going to go out and buy a tube, about that big round, so I can wrap my green screen on it so that I can roll it up and have it out of the way. And slowly we work on the hanger. And maybe in my lifetime, before I die, we'll actually get to move out into our new home, and I can use my man cave the way I dream it and envision it every day. I hope and I pray. I pray for us as a nation and a people, and I hope each of us can have, within the scope of our limitations, an absolutely great time and a great weekend. I look forward to you dropping in on me again. I really appreciate and enjoy your comments, even the ones that I don't consider good. The ones that aren't good, I just click them and they're gone. So with that said, have a great weekend.